Dear students, we were reading the poem The Wasteland, section 3, The Fire Sermon. In the previous lines, we had read about two types of music. The music of children singing choir when Parsifal arrives, Chapel Perilous, and the singing of bird Philomel, tweet, 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 the story of her suffering in the form of a song when she was raped by her brother-in-law, King Tyreus. Both these songs, the symbol of purification, symbol of transformation into something higher, the symbol of chastity, insisting the chastity, have lost their value for modern wastelanders. These songs have lost their theme, and to the modern wastelanders, they represent a theme of fleshly temptation. The voices of children had aroused the libido, the lust of Parsifal. This reference is from Parsifal, a French poem by the poet Paul Verlaine, and second reference is from Ovid. Now we are going to begin from line number 207. Unreal city, under the brown fog of a winter noon, Mr. Eugenides, the Smyrna merchant, unshaven with a pocket full of currents, CIF London, documents at sight, asked me in demotic French to luncheon at Cannon Street Hotel, followed by a weekend at the Metropole. Unreal city. This city, T.S. Eliot is referring to London, but this unreal city may be any city. It is objective correlative to Dante's Limbo, to the metropolitan city of any time, which is unreal because of pollution, unreal because people are fraudulent and they are full of rape, lust, and cheapness. So this city is unreal, away from the reality of nature, away from the reality of outer as well as inner nature. Under the brown fog of a winter noon, the city is full of brown fog because fog has covered the city, fog has become brown because of pollution, and this fog has hidden everything from the sight. In this unreal city, Mr. Eugenides, who is a Smyrna merchant. Smyrna is a place in Western Turkey. Its former name was Izmir. Now it is. So these Smyrna merchants used to carry fertility cults from one country to other. Today they have this merchandise, this fertility cult has lost its meaning, and business had been degenerated, merchandise has been degenerated, and it is corrupt. So these businessmen, these merchants are carrying lust, homosexual relationship from one country to other. These Smyrna merchants who had spread fertility cults in Europe, they have been degenerated. This Eugenides is a symbol of fertility gods and Phoenician sailor in section 4 drowned Phoenician sailor. He is unshaven with a pocket full of currents, CIF. He CIF, carriage and insurance free. His pocket is full of currents. These currents are symbol of his merchandise. Documents at sight. He presented his documents because it was a system. The documents of goods were to be exchanged for a bank draft payable at sight. That's why he's saying documents at sight. Asked me in demotic French. Mr. Eugenides is asking the protagonist of the play, the poem, in demotic French, demotic vulgar. In slang French, he is asking to luncheon at Cannon Street Hotel, followed by a big weekend at the Metropole. This Cannon Street Hotel and Metropole, both the hotels were notorious for homosexual relationship. So, Smyrna merchant, Mr. Eugenides, is a symbol of fallen, degenerated merchants who are not caring for moral values, and they are spreading the sexual relationship, degenerated sexual relationship in the countries they are coming in contact. At the violet hour, when the eyes back turned upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi throbbing waiting, I Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old men with wrinkled female breasts can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home from sea. Now, a very beautiful description of evening is given by T.S. Eliot. This evening hour, the violet hour, when the eyes in back turn upward from the desk, contrary to the evening of Collins, who is presenting evening of various seasons. This evening is the evening of a metropolitan city where in the office people are working like machines and they are waiting for the evening hour. And what shall they do? They shall give an outlet to their boredom, to their monotonous routine through illegitimate sexual relationship with their lover or beloved. The reference is to a typist girl, and she is backing her eyes, lifting her eyes and her back from the desk. She is moving towards her home when human engine, this human engine is for typist girl. She is like a taxi, she is like a machine, and her heart is throbbing because she is waiting for the evening. How reluctant she is to carry on the work during the day because the work is so monotonous that her routine has become monotonous, and she wants to bring a change in this monotonous routine by making physical relationship with her lover. I Tiresias, for the first time in the poem Entry of Tiresias, the protagonist is there. Though blind, throbbing between two lives, his characteristic is given in one line. He is blind. He became blind because he saw two snakes copulating and he hit them with a stick. As a result, he was cursed to become blind and to live the life of a male as well as female. So Tiresias is throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts. He has become old, and he is having his physique has turned old. His breast is female, and he can see at this violet hour, the evening hour, that strives homeward, that brings Sailor home from sea. Sailor home from sea, these lines are reminiscent of Stevenson's poem, The Requiem, when sailor is coming home after a tiring voyage. Here also, after the tiring routine of the day, the typist girl wants to go home to just make herself distressed, to de-stress herself, and at this violet hour, in evening hour, that strives. Evening hour is striving. In these lines, there is transferred epithet because evening hour is not striving. The typist girl is striving to go home, homeward, towards home, and this evening brings sailor home from sea. The same evening is bringing typist girl home. The typist girl who is so poor that her poverty is reflected in the coming lines. The typist, home at tea time, clears her breakfast, lights her stove, lays out food in tins out of the window, perilously spread, her drying combination touched by the sun's last rays. She comes home at tea time, it is evening time, clears her breakfast. She is hungry, so first he is satisfying her hunger. She is taking her breakfast, she is lighting her stove and laying out food which she is storing in tins. Out of the window perilously spread. Window perilous, these lines are reminiscent of the poem of Keats' Ode to Nightingale, where out of window the princess is listening to the song of nightingale, so purifying, so heartening, so cool, so sweet. But here, this window is presenting a different scene. This window is showing perilously, dangerously spread, drying combinations touched by the sun's last ray. The life of metropolitan city is reflected how difficult the life is. The people have to cooperate to cope up in small flats because no place is there for washings, no place is there for drying combinations, and they have to dry them on divan itself, in the drawing room, divan which is at night her bed. These clothes, these combinations are piled in a pile. They are stored. At night, this divan becomes her bed. So poor the girl is. That's why she is struggling in an office. Her stockings, slippers, camisoles, and stays all are heaped on divan so that the last rays of the sun can touch them and they can get dry. A small house agent's clerk with one bold stare, one of the last, one of the low on whom assurance sits. I, Tiresias, man with wrinkled ducks, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too waited the expected guest. One line is missing here, students, sorry. I too expected the unexpected guest. Tiresias is expecting the guest to arrive. Tiresias can foresee everything. He knows who will arrive because he has a divine sight like Dhritarashtra of Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra is given the divine sight of Sanjay and he can see all the detail of the war, Mahabharata, the field of Kurukshetra. In the same way, Tiresias can see what will happen next. Who is the man? He is the young man. Carbuncular arrives. A young man is arriving. He is carbuncular. Carbuncular, his face has become red because of sunburn. He arrives. Who is he? A small house agent's clerk. He is a clerk of an agent with one bold stare, one of the low on whom assurance sits as a silk hat on a Bradford millionaire. He is a clerk of a small house agent, but he shows himself to be confident, full of boldness. His boldness is as unadjustable on his face as the hat on the head of a Bradford millionaire. Here, T.S. Eliot is referring to millionaires of Bradford. Bradford is a place, the millionaires of it were newly rich people. They had newly become rich. That's why they had started wearing hats as a fashion. But during their lifetime, they had not worn hats. That's why they are feeling uneasy when they are wearing hats. In the same way, this clerk is also wearing a stare of boldness, but he feels as uneasy as the head of a Bradford millionaire. Though he poses to be very bold, but in reality he is timid because poor people are always full of worries of life, tensions of life. They are worrying about keeping their body and soul together. That's why they can never have boldness, self-confidence in their life. The time is now propitious, he guesses. This clerk guesses that time is propitious. Propitious, favorable. Propitious is the word which we read in the Rape of the Lock by Pope. Time is propitious. To make time propitious, Baron is making prayer to gods to grant him his wished gift, present. And here also, the clerk is making the time propitious, guessing the time propitious because meal is ended and she is getting bored and tired. The meal is ended. She is bored and tired, endeavors to engage her in caresses, and she still are unreproved if undesired. Flushed and decided, he assaults at once. Endeavors, the meal is ended, and she is getting bored. Endeavors to engage her in caresses. He is caressing her body. He endeavors, he makes an effort to caress her body, which because she is indifferent to his lovemaking. This is like a mechanic process for modern wastelanders. This is not indulged with feelings. That's why she is neither desiring it nor approving it. She is very much apathetic to that, feelingless to that, and the clerk is taking the advantage of her feelinglessness, and flushed, excited and decided, he assaults, he attacks at her. Attacks at her. This attack is indicating what kind of violent game they are going to play, because love is not a cool affair for them. It is a violent exercise for modern wastelanders. Exploring hands encounter no defense. His vanity requires no response, makes a welcome of indifference. I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all, enacted on this same divan or bed. I, who have sat by thieves below the wall, and walked among the lowest of the dead, bestows one final patronizing kiss, and gropes his way. Exploring hands. He is exploring. The clerk is exploring the body of the typist, and she is not defending herself. He faces no defense from her side. His vanity requires no response. He is full of vanity. His pride requires no response from her, and she makes a welcome of indifference. He makes a welcome of this indifference. I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all. I have forsuffered because I am bisexual. I can guess the feelings of the girl as well as the boy, and in the same divan or bed I have enacted myself. I, who have sat by thieves below the wall, I have told the story of the sins, the result of the sins to King Oedipus in olden times. I have walked among lowest of the dead. I have walked underworld also, to Hades also. Underworld he has here come for Hades, and I have consulted by Odysseus. I have consulted with Odysseus to tell him the sinful relationship of him has caused, because Oedipus was having sinful relationship with Jocasta, and Odysseus was also had committed some um, uh, bold deeds during his lifetime. So the sins of Oedipus with Jocasta had led thieves to curse, and I had discussed all these things in olden times. Bestows one final patronizing kiss. The clerk is kissing the girl and groping his way, searching his way in dark, unlit staircase. In this way, modern Westlanders are leading a life of sins, a life of monotonous routine, a life of illegitimate relationship, degenerated merchandise, and this has led them to their sins and sterility of the land and impotency of their king. Will continue tomorrow. Thank you, friends.